all introduced each other, so it's good to know who's in the meeting. And I want to point out the ground rules that I think we have agreement about, which are at the bottom of the agenda. Agency will basically declare what has been voted and who has agreed or disagreed, and what are the reasons for disagreement, and based on this, the agency will draft its regulation.
Will be an acceptable solution. It's not consensus and absolute consensus. Why would I accept voting as a point or not a point that is viable?
We still want to know, let's say, who supports the proposal if we don't have consensus.
I agree.
Of course, the validity of the whatever is decided by a majority will be different than from a consensus.
Yes, but I might very well take down what the disagreement is, but that does not mean that that will be an absolute change to the rule.
Yeah.
Claire's comment, and I apologize for excluding you from the previous meeting. This was not intentional. Obviously, the community is very important in participating and voicing an opinion, and we would love to hear you. I think you are extremely important also for the agency in helping us get some of these points settled with the different groups here at the table, and I think we can do a lot of very positive things together to get this whole effort forward.
So, great.
Placing production before people.
No, and from an economic perspective, honestly, the economic implications of replacing all that equipment would likely mean that many plants would need to be shut down and that there wouldn't be any more jobs. And 1 part per million has not been proven to be harmful and is a trace amount.
Right, but you're also the first to say that the studies have been inconclusive, and there is emerging evidence that in the long term, the negative effects of dirty stuff have harmful consequences. So if you're the first to say that this is inconclusive, why are we putting people...
The reports are
if you're the first in this room to be pushing the position of this being inconclusive, why are we taking the risk of putting workers and the public who are in proximity to this at risk?
My position right now.
But I don't understand. Is it? It's not feasible, so it means that that's it. What does it mean? Can you 1.5? That's it, or is it negotiable?
We would strongly advocate for the limit to be 1.5.
We go through rounds of introductions. Everybody states their highest priorities, and I hear worker safety from everybody, except from industry. And then I ask industry about worker safety, and they tell me, sure, only if technically proven, etc., etc. I mean, and then you say you're not sure about how harmful will this index be, 1.0, 1.5, 0.5. We weren't sure about asbestos in the 70s, and now people are dying of cancer. We haven't been sure about climate change for a while, and we'll be underwater soon. I mean, is the preemptive principle, or is it that we're going to take care of it afterwards? So, I mean, we're not sure. That's the point. I am not advocating that 1.0 is completely unsure.
If we're not sure, we should all live in a bubble, and that's not going to happen. This is a matter of
First of all,
using the available
I think we have
information.
ground rules. I was speaking.
We're trying to get people's actual positions on these issues out on paper, rather than asking what people's motives are in being here, because that's where the actual policy comes. So I want to encourage people to stick to the numbers, to the issues, rather than questioning somebody's motives and why they take their position.
It's not personal, it's organizational. I think it's okay to ask that in order to really understand. If the industry, we want to understand what the industry wants, really.
Right, and I think that one way to get at
that's
what...
all, it's not something personal.
I think one way to ask and get at what they're interested in is to ask the question directly rather than to dance around it, possibly.
And we're willing to comply with those findings. However, it's not feasible to plan preemptively for anything that might happen, and that's why regulations exist, and that's why there's continuing development. However, we do have to perspective.
I don't know, but I do know that each time that we have. It's not certain, no, but you don't know either.
Okay, I think
So-
the original question, if I
And to have knowledge, you have to have like tens of years of experiments. You have to have people who were kids and then they're dying. And then you have to connect the source, the problem, to their death or illness. And it's really hard. That's why we have to be, precaution and not to say, oh, yeah, he died because...
I understand that people have concerns about what the perception is, however, this is something that needs to be based
No.
in the science, and if it's, that's a concern I have with the position here, I understand what you're representing, but this is a scientific issue.
This
One
is not,
sentence.
This is not only a technical issue. This is a technical issue for the people that are going to be running the thing
Yes.
in a different city. This is our workers' life. So it's not only technical, it's life and death.
I think if I
I think we need to understand better as well the studies that the agency is commissioning and understanding who is carrying these out, what, I think that this is a major question because in terms of the public's right to be aware of what's happening, I think we need to be seeing a diversity of studies carried out from a diversity of sources. Some of these need to be community monitored, and the community needs to be much more strongly involved in this research process, and that's something that we haven't seen from the agency in terms of transparency about what these, where these studies are coming from, what they involve, and what they plan to do in the future to ensure that this is
ensuring future studies are always made public.
This is,
not only that future studies are always made public, but that the public is involved and has a degree of control over this
Over
process.
Yep.
We've done it. We've had some normal days or whatever. So cleanup causes cleanup and maybe amount.
Like amount
Something.
of
Like the parts per million.
parts per million.
Yeah,
stuff.
that was overage.
Show it over. Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly. Amount of overage.
Yeah, I think the important thing for us there would just be that as long as we get something that would be grounds for, because it's also important to us that if any
It doesn't mean we would do that every time, but at least the first time, we want to make sure that before it says the process is working and you're doing 3 parts per million, we want to make sure that we have some other entity verify that, and we can decide on who that backup company or entity would be, but just in the interest of the ramifications of violating these conditions.
Well, I think actually that's important for your concern too, because if it is going to be used in court,
Right,
it needs to be
yeah, it needs to be
accurate
reliable.
and reliable data.
Yeah, and
so-
we also, I think that's something that we could live with, but we would need a local advisory board to approve the independent contractor in the case.
So it sounds
It's co-produced, it's that the independent contractor that does all this
Are
work
approved.
is approved by the local advisory board.
local advisory
It's
board.
our group,
the
at
community.
least.
So as industry, we feel fine with having a local advisory board, and we just wanted to raise the concern that the first independent contractor may have a chance of making an error, and we just want to make sure we can validate their results. And I think we can even delineate who the first and second choice through the board is, so that process is ready to go.
And just to run this process, right? It's supplementing, not
I wasn't
replacing.
sure who the local advisory board, I didn't raise it initially, so I think we have to talk about
That's a
what
board that
means.
helps, that approves the choice of this contractor that's doing
Okay, Oh,
all this work.
so it's a supplement, it's not a.
Yeah. It's a sort of contingency on
So we
the
are
industry's
adding-
choice.
The independent contractor is verified, validated, and vetted for accuracy, and then it's continuously monitored by a supplemental board that consists of your agency, the community, and
Industry would want to be represented. I don't know that the word continuously monitored.
Yeah, it's
I understood
approved.
that it's
It's
approved
approved
as who the contractor